Opposed, likewise. Motion's adopted. Do we have any public comment? No public comment, okay.
Yes.
We do, okay, I'm sorry. Please state your name, sir.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Dave Sobush, Director of Policy and Research, Tampa Bay Partnership, 4300 West Cypress Street, served by the HART Flex and previously by the number 30. I wanted to make sure the key points of a letter sent to Chairman Miller from the partnership last Thursday were entered into the record of this committee's proceedings. The surtax referendum, supported by the partnership and others, changed the trajectory of this community for the better and arguably is the most important moment in HART's history. $200 million plus annual budgets and more than $4 billion in total additional revenues over the next 30 years. We applaud the board and this committee for the steps we have taken. The timeline to date was right. The search firm is an industry leader. But for whatever reason, we believe the results have not yet yielded a leader with a track record aligned with HART's near and long-term future. We ask that the committee members expand the list of candidates and take more time for public comment. The community has entrusted this agency with generous financial resources, and this role, by all rights, should be more attractive to seasoned and proven CEOs of similar agencies. In the event the right candidate does not emerge in this round of recruitment, we encourage you to ask why that may be the case and go back to the drawing board. Expediency should not drive this process. The expectations are high, and we shouldn't settle for less than the experienced and seasoned leader we deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Seeing none, thank you very much. Committee action item resolution R 219-0103. Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and fellow directors. This is a proposal to allow participation telephonically at this committee level. It's a standing rule only. It's a standing rule only for this committee. It doesn't have to be in resolution form, but we wrote it up in resolution form so you can see what's being suggested. Ms. Shanahan is, I believe, on the ad hoc committee, and I believe she's on the phone, and she would like to be able to participate in this process. But due to developments of her recent employment, it's difficult. And she's asked that she hasn't specifically asked this. When I was apprised of the situation, I looked at your policies. Your policies are silent on the issue of telephonic participation. Robert's rules then prevails. Under Robert's rules, if you want to adopt this as a standing rule, you may do so. And it would be limited to this committee. It's only a standing rule for this committee. Whether or not the board wants to look at something in the future is not relevant to your decision today. So the point is, do you want to adopt this rule to allow telephonic participation? You'll note that the rule requires you have at least a quorum present in person. So you can't all 5 participate telephonically. Matter of fact, only as many as 2 could do so. So that's essentially what the rule says. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
David, for a quorum, we need 4 members of the board?
I believe we have a 5-member panel.
3.
So you need 3.
3
okay,
council.
thank you.
Any other discussion? What's your pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2019-0103.
And I second.
There's a motion by Mr. Harden, second by Mr. McClain to approve the resolution. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
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 Opposed likewise. Motion's adopted. Ms. Shanahan, are you on the phone? Ms. Shanahan?
I am on the phone, sir.
Okay, well.
I'm on the phone.
All right, well.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. You can participate and vote telephonically. We just approved the resolution, so thank you. Committee discussion, the review of the video presentation. Mr. Moser, are you there?
I am here, yes.
He was not able to be with us this morning. When he called me yesterday, they were in the midst of getting a foot of snow, and it was snowing at the exact time he called me, and he couldn't get out of there. So I told him it would be perfectly okay to call us this morning because he couldn't drive that far and that fast, and there were no flights out. So glad to have you here this morning, and I'm going to turn it over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning. I will ask, I suppose, that all 4 of the candidates we asked to move forward responded to the questions in the time that we asked them to respond to. I believe Lena had provided everybody on the committee with the links to their video responses. Did everyone get a chance to review those video responses?
Yes.
Yes.
It appears so. Ms. Shanahan?
All right.
Ms. Shanahan?
Yes, I watched them all. Yes, I saw them all.
Okay. So yes, Mr. Mose, everyone did.
Great. So I turn it over to you, Chairman. Do you want to have some discussion about those video responses, any feedback or input from the committee as to what they saw, what they thought, and then we should, from there, discuss how we move forward. Do we decide to move forward with all of those candidates, a select group of those candidates, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions the committee may have on that.
Okay. The floor is open for discussion on the candidates.
I have more of a technical question. Do we have to show those videos at this forum since it's a public forum?
You do not have to show them, but they have to be accessible to the public because they are part of the Sunshine Act decision.
Okay. And can I ask Greg a few questions?
Sure.
Real fast? Hey, Greg, Rich McLean, thanks for joining us. I understand you got about 8 to 12 inches of snow up there, so thanks for joining us via phone. Some questions on our solicitation out there. I just want to make sure I'm clear and that the audience is clear. Can you tell me when the solicitation went out and how long did we leave it?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question. So maybe it'd be helpful if it's okay with you, I can take everybody through how we got to where we are today. I will do that briefly, but methodically as to what happened and how everything transpired. In terms of, you may remember there was a board meeting that took place back in September. I think I dialed in by phone on that conversation. There was some discussion about whether we got moving on the CEO recruitment at that time, or we waited until after the referendum. There was some discussion about starting and stopping the process in between. I think that what I heard from the committee and what we decided to ultimately do, or the board, was to hold off and not do a start and stop, but to hold off and to see what took place with the referendum. And then to immediately post the decision to make was made to immediately post the job once the referendum vote took place. So we followed that process, and November 6th was the day we actually posted the job publicly. It was on HART's website. We posted it to a number of industry associations, AFTA, the American Public Transportation Association. There's Transit Talent, there's Women in Transportation, and there's the Conference of Minority Transportation Officers. And the job was posted with all of those organizations. We posted it for a 60-day period. We indicated on the posting that the job posting was to be closed January 6th, which was 60 days later, approximately. I also, during that 60-day period, directly targeted industry candidates. I reached out to CEOs all around the country from the large, medium, and small agencies, agencies that have gone through what your community is going to go through. Those include Phoenix, Seattle, Atlanta, Dallas, just to name a few. There are other ones out there, of course, Denver, and reached out to their CEOs and to their executive leadership teams to discuss the position, to talk about what Tampa was going to go through, what the board was looking for, and to try to attract candidates. So that was part of the process also. It wasn't just a passive, if you see the job posting, apply for it. It was me directly targeting industry leaders, and I did that. You may remember during that process, I don't remember the exact date of it, we came back for a meeting, and there was quite a bit of discussion about salary ranges, and we came up with a salary range for the position. There was discussion about a higher end range. We ultimately settled on a little bit lower. That was obviously public information, and I had also discussed that with candidates. So during my discussion with several candidates, some of them have decided to apply. You've seen those applications. Several did not apply for various reasons, and that's how we got to where we were. The reasons why people didn't apply, some just simply didn't want to leave their communities. They were happy with their jobs. Some didn't want to locate to Tampa, despite it being a beautiful part of the country and whatnot. It may have been personal circumstances in their lives and couldn't relocate. Others, the salary range wasn't competitive. I talked to a person who was 2 levels down from the CEO in Seattle, and their base salary was higher than the top end of our range. So, the salary range that we discussed and came up with wasn't in line with that. I'm not sure, candidly, that when you get 2 or 3 levels down in the organization, that's the sort of the experience experience we're necessarily looking for. I think people embedded in that point in the organization are a bit more operationally focused, a little bit less community focused. But I just highlight that as a point as to where other organizations are and where other candidates or people that I reached out to target were at. We closed the job on January 6th. I went through all those resumes. I used the job description. I used the information I had gotten from you and taken from the community to identify and select the strongest, what I believe to be the strongest group of candidates. I gave you what I believe to be a pretty wide perspective on candidates, and both in experience and other areas of diversity. And then you had an opportunity to review those candidates' resumes and ultimately select the four we decided to move forward with.
All right, and just for clarification, the salary range we posted was?
I think we settled on a salary range, a base salary of somewhere between about 180 and 220,000.
Okay.
Mr. Moser, this is Kathleen Shanahan. How many other searches like this are going on that you're aware of in the country?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there are quite a few. There is, right now you've got Richmond, you've got Cleveland, you've got Cincinnati. There have been a few that have just finished recently as well. I understand there's another one in the Midwest that hasn't been made public yet that may be coming up in the short future. And then if you look over the last 6 or 8 months, there's been a number as well. So you've had Grand Rapids, you've had Austin, Texas, and those are the ones I'm just thinking. You've got an executive position up in Boston. You've had a couple of positions in the New York, New Jersey area. There's one for the PATH train, which is a commuter railroad, open in the New York, New Jersey area as well. So there are quite a few at the moment in transit.
Mr. Chairman.
And your firm is involved in lots of these searches, or at least participate, whether you're running them or... So from a perspective of competitive members that we have, executives, professionals that we're reviewing, how strongly do you feel that we have a very strong pool of candidates?
I think given the circumstances of the industry and the availability of talent right now, I think you have the strongest pool of candidates you would probably find. I don't believe if we went back out there and extended this for another 30 or 60 days, you'd find a different group of candidates. I think, a few things have happened in this industry, and this has happened across other industries as well. There's an aging workforce. You're seeing more folks get to the age where they have started to retire and they've not moved on to those jobs. You've seen people move up. Atlanta has recently hired a CEO. Los Angeles took a CEO out of Denver. Denver promoted someone from within. So you've seen some of these bigger systems. Seattle hired a CEO in the last 2 years. Portland, Oregon just hired a CEO in the last couple of months. So all of these systems that are rapidly growing have all gone through a similar process you've gone through. And like I said, you've seen a retiring workforce of the people that have been doing this for 20, 30 years have started to retire, and you're starting to see that next generation of leaders step up. And I think that's where we are in the industry. And I think that I do believe that this is the strongest within the transit industry.
Mr. McKinney?
Thank you. I know I'm not on the ad hoc committee, and I beg your indulgence, but Greg, you mentioned that several people you had reached out to indicated that the salary range wasn't adequate. What is your opinion as to what the expectations are out in the industry for what I guess we are looking for, the top-notch person? I mean, this agency now has the resources to pay a respectable salary. I don't want to give money away, but if we're short, let's hear the bad news and talk about it.
Let's be mindful, we're not there yet.
Correct.
As far as the money goes. We're not there yet.
I understand. I just wanted to hear Greg say what he thinks a reasonable salary would be for a top-notch candidate.
Mr. Moser?
Yeah, I think that I'll answer that in a couple different ways. If you look at Catherine, who was with HART who went up to Pittsburgh. Catherine, I think her base salary was somewhere approximately around 185, give or take. And she left and went up to Pittsburgh and is now close to 250. So you look at that, and by making that move as a base salary, so by making that move, she made about a $65,000 pay jump. And that doesn't include other incentives and things like that may be in her contract. I think if you look at Austin, Texas, the base salary of the CEO in Austin, Texas, his base salary is about 280, 285, and he gets about another 50,000 in deferred comp and some other incentives as well. I think if you were to look at some of the bigger systems, that have gone through this, Phoenix is, has a much larger capital program, but their salaries in the $300,000 range, and I go back to what I said before. Candidly, if raise the salary to 250, 260, I'm not sure that would dramatically change things. I'm not sure of that. I think that if you were looking for someone who's a CEO of Dallas today, CEO of Austin, CEO of Denver or Seattle, like I said earlier, those organizations have gone through these searches very recently. So to get someone from an organization like that, I'm not sure they're available. I'm not sure they'd be willing to make the move. Those organizations, with the exception of Denver, all hired from outside of their organizations. So for me to go out and try to see if any of those CEOs who have done this before are available, or someone who's been through this before may be willing to come back at it. Like I said, if you look at Charlotte and some of those places, the CEOs who have taken those agencies through those, in the last 10, 15 years, they've all moved on to consulting. So to get them maybe come back in and do this and lead you through this, I couldn't promise that they'd be willing to, but I think it would have to make it worth their while. Where I'm guessing the number would have to be over 300,000, and maybe even north of that. I mean, it would be a situation where I'd have to go in and talk to some of these candidates who maybe have done it before and say, what would it take? Is there any possibility you'd be willing to come back, and what would it take? And sort of open it up like that, because again, from my understanding, my conversations with them, these are not folks that are interested in leading an organization at this point in their lives.
Ms. Williams, you recognize.
Thank you. Mr. Moser, in regards to the feedback we got from the Tampa Bay Partnership, and I believe there was a comment that indicated proven ability, proven yielded talent, and proven CEO. So were there any interested CEOs who were open to or having any conversation with you in regards to this position?
I'm looking back at the list of candidates. You have one in your list. There was another one that I had talked to, and I think that actually there were two more out there. One did not have the educational requirements that were required in the job. And when we posted it, it required a degree, and this person did not have a degree. And there was another candidate, but indicated to me that even though their salaries were in the sort of the high one, and I'm remembering off the top of my head, probably in the high 180s or so, they thought for a job like this, it really needed to pay, closer to the 320, 350 range for a position like this, for them to be interested in. Again, I didn't have that conversation to say, okay, if I could get the salary, that would you apply? And there are obviously other circumstances that I'd have to vet and make sure that, they were truly qualified and that they were willing to go through a public process and whatnot. But beyond those couple I just mentioned right now, that was you have seen the group of candidates, and you do have one, and you're currently listed as a CEO today.
Thank you.
Mr. Moser, this is Commissioner Miller. Let me ask you a question. In the letter from the Downtown Partnership, it was stated that we're moving too fast. The posting of the position was for 60 days. I think we started posting it, you said, on November 6, 2018, and closed on January 6, 2019. In the work that you've done throughout the country, what is the average posting dates, a length of time? Is it 60 days, more than 60? What's the average?
Yeah, I typically recommend, if a client asks me how long would you recommend posting a job, I would recommend 60 days. And that's what I've done in other processes. That's what I've seen in other processes. And one of the reasons for that is, as a process goes on, like I mentioned, there are other positions that are open, that are looking, that are going to be looking. I forgot to mention Utah is also looking for a CEO, executive director. So what happens is the longer this goes on, you get candidate fatigue. Candidates don't want their names out there. They don't want to be in uncertainty with their organizations and whatnot. And also, they'll get called by other organizations to say, hey, come here. And if another organization's process moves faster, they may get selected for that other process, or ultimately decide, you know what, I don't want to hang in any longer. I can't continue to just wait, and I don't want to stay through the process. So I do say that 60 days is a pretty good time frame, and then, you know, like we've laid out, and as we plan to, it's going to take us about another 30 days to get through the remainder of that after January 6th.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions, Mr. Moser? Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I have one other question. This is Kathleen.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to ask about the lawsuit. I mean, do you feel like there was any overhang? It sounds like there was an overhang in terms of some deflection of interest based on salary. Do you think there was any deflection of interest based on the lawsuit or the post, you know, election positioning that's going on right now?
I did not hear that from candidates. I didn't hear that from anybody. I mean, I think that people feel confident that the voters have spoken, and I mean, obviously we have to wait and see how all this plays out, but I think this is an exciting opportunity for candidates, and you've got 4 that are very excited at this point to lead the agency going forward. But I didn't hear that as a major concern or a reason why someone did not apply.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, so Mr. Moser, at this particular point in time, there are no questions. Do you suggest that we make a decision this time of how many we want to bring and who those persons might be?
Yes, I believe if you're at that point, I think whatever discussion and conversation you want to have to get to a point of moving forward. And I would just recommend that, from my perspective, ideally not to go down to 2 candidates. One of the reasons I recommend that is just simply because if something happens, we're going to conduct extensive background checks at this point, and finish conducting reference checks that I've worked on and have shared with you. And if for some reason a candidate couldn't move forward, and maybe something happens in their personal life, if you only have 2, then you're down to 1. So I just recommend that consider moving forward with more than 2.
Okay. Anyone want to start?
I'd like to ask a question. Just we selected 4 at the last board meeting. I guess my question is, could we, if we wanted to, open that back up to review the 13 again and see if we want to change any one of those 4?
Is that a legal question? You're free to
Just
open
a process
it up.
question.
This
Okay.
committee can do whatever it chooses to do in the process.
Okay. And I asked that question based on the videos I saw. So if there was options, if anybody wanted to review, if anybody said, hey, instead of this one, can we look at this one again? So just thought I'd throw that on the table, Chair.
Okay. It's okay. So we're at the point now of a decision of who we bring in, how many we bring in, whatever the case may be. So would anyone like to start? Okay, well, I'll start. I reviewed them all, attentively listened to their answers and to the 3 questions that we had, and I rated them from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest of those candidates on the questions that we had. And when my ratings, the top candidate I had that rated the highest was Kenyatta Lee with 12, followed by Cleveland Ferguson with 11, then Benjamin Limmer with 10, and Kerry Butler with 7. So if we're looking at that, my determination would be that we bring in the 3 highest for my listing, that's just me, would be Ferguson, Lee, and Limmer.
I too reviewed the videos, and my first choice was Limmer, second choice Lee, third choice Ferguson.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I watched the videos and reread the resumes and, you know, contemplated the experience of the candidates, and my top choices in order would be Limmer, Butler, and Ferguson.
Well, let's start over this thing here.
Yeah, and I had the same lineup of the 3 that I nominated. I picked Limmer, Butler, and then of course Ferguson. and I'm happy to talk about all of them, if you like, in terms of what I found was beneficial to this organization and then what I found might be less beneficial, but those are the 3 lineups I had right there.
Okay. So.
And I had the same 3.
What was the 3 again?
Limmer, Butler, and Ferguson.
Okay, I didn't write those down. So
Ferguson.
did anyone write those down?
You get 3 people that have Limmer, Ferguson, and Butler. You have 2 people that have Ferguson, Lee, and Limmer.
And we have, and then we just had
Lee
McShanahan.
actually ranked them according to your priority as well, 1, 2, and 3. I just put the 3 down. You want to add those up? It looks like, I think Ferguson was on everybody's list. Limmer was on everybody's list. And
then we have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ferguson at 5, Limmer at 5, Butler at 3, Lee at 2.
Yes, we have 4.
right.
So we have Butler, I'm sorry, Limmer, Butler, and Ferguson?
Correct.
With the
Who's your
highest?
top 3?
Top 3? Okay. What's your decision, gentlemen, ladies, that we bring in those 3 for interviews? Is there a motion to that effect?
Yes.
I'll motion.
There's a
So
motion.
moved.
There's a motion by Mr. McLean, second by, was that you seconding, Ms. Shanahan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Second by Ms. Shanahan, that we bring in Butler, Ferguson, and Limmer for interviews. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, let them know by saying aye.
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 Opposers likewise, motion is
Aye.
adopted. Motion is adopted. At this point, we have another meeting on the 4th. Somebody needs to go through the process of where we are.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Can I ask a question before we do that, just as a procedural thing?
Sure.
Mr. Moser, are you still on the phone?
I am, yes.
Yeah. Of course, you heard the chairman, we selected 3, but that doesn't stop you from beating the bushes still, does it, to continue to look at who's available out there?
What will we do?
So I think there's a 2-part answer to that question. One is, if someone came to me, I would not share them with you. But we also did close the job posting and sort of the recruiting process January 6th. So I suppose from a not only an optics standpoint, but maybe I would turn to your legal counsel from a legal standpoint. If we said to people, the deadline to apply was January 6th, is it fair to do that?
Okay, thank you very much. That's what I wanted.
I'm waiting on, okay. Mr. Stewart, you want to go through the process at this particular point in time?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Since one of the candidates, we understand from Mr. Moser, will not be available at the February 4th board meeting, we have done a canvassing of the board members of those that would be available to move the board meeting from the 4th to the 1st of February. We have been told that that candidate will be available on the 1st of February. So with that, we would like to not have a special meeting, but actually move the February regular board meeting to the 1st of February. So seeing that Mr. Ferguson is a final candidate, we would like to move, we need to move the meeting from the 4th to the 1st. So that would be the plan. The only one that we did not canvass was general counsel to make sure that he or someone from Greg Robinson would be available on the 1st versus Monday the 4th.
I'm sure we can have someone available. Yes, sir.
Okay. So we will move the meeting from the 4th to the 1st. We will publicly notice that. The next part of the process is that I'll be working with Mr. Moser and Ms. Pettit to get these candidates to Tampa in the next 3 weeks prior to the February board meeting to have an opportunity to meet with each of you and your peer board members prior to that board meeting. So you have an opportunity to sit face to face with them and ask the questions and talk to them on issues that you feel pertinent. And then we will have all 3 physically here at that February 1st board meeting for face-to-face interviews at the podium. And that's the process.
Any questions? So our next meeting will be February the 1st.
Correct.
Okay. At 9.
And time.
Okay.
Regular board meeting.
And in the meantime,
Regular agenda.
we're going to, well, you laid it out. Okay. Any questions?
Question. I won't be available on February 1st in person. Will that still be an option for a dial-in?
I think as long as we have 3 members here in person, all right?
I'll defer.
Yes, you have to have at least 3 here in person for a quorum.
But that's a full board meeting, right?
It's
You're
a
having a
full
full
board
board
meeting.
meeting, you're gonna have.
That's a full board
quorum.
meeting that day?
That's what I was gonna clarify. I think you just said the full board is moving from the 4th, the first Monday of the month, to Friday the 1st. So the whole
Okay.
board will meet
So
that
that's a
day.
full board.
Full board.
Full board,
meeting.
I
not a
see.
full committee.
Right. This is the last ad hoc meeting.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
So the quorum is 7 or?
Yes, yeah, we have 13 right now, that's correct.
And so far, we have 10 confirmed.
And Ms. Pettit did contact me, I do have it on my calendar and I will be there.
Good, great.
Any further discussion on any items? This is our last meeting as an ad hoc committee. Anything else? Again?
Mr. Chair, this is Kathleen. I want to make sure that you feel like we were responsive to the pressures or the suggestions from the business community is February 1st allowing, again, I think we have strong candidates. I think we distilled that down to Gary, but I didn't know, I think Commissioner McLean suggested that if a candidate came forward, they could be considered. I don't know the probability of that, and I don't know where that fits into a process of getting this all wrapped up by February 1st with candidates coming to meet with us individually. So I just want to be respectful of the issues that were raised by the 2 significant business groups, and if the committee as a whole feels like we've acknowledged that and incorporated that into the schedule, then I'm fine with that.
Well, since you asked the question, I'll ask your last part of this question first and foremost. I think that either Mr. Smith or Mr. Moser clarified that the advertising is closed and that if anyone else wanted to come forth, we couldn't do that at this particular point in time because the advertising is closed. The part of your first question is, that's why I asked the question to Mr. Moser, is what is the average time frame of advertising of any other CEO positions around the country that you're seeing? He said that 60 days was the average, and that's what we did, was 60 days, from November 6th to January 6th. And I had a conversation with Mr. Holmans from the Downtown Partnership on Friday as to his letter and as to why he thought we were moving too fast, and his comments where he think that we should have a CEO that would be entered in this position should someone we'd be looking at. And as you heard Mr. Moser right now, I think he said 2 CEOs to apply. One did not meet our education qualifications, and the other one was concerned about the salary. So we, as he said, we have the best possible candidates we could get for what our advertisement is. We've dwindled that down to the 3 best possible candidates we think there should be. So I think we have answered the business community's question. The concern I had when talking to the business community is that a letter was written and they hadn't even reviewed all the applications, which concerned me some. So I think we are where we are. I think we've gotten the best possible candidates we can have. And I think the process that we've gone through is adequate. And if anyone feels differently, the floor is open.
Mr. Chair, just to be clear, so everyone understands the process, this committee, as an ad hoc committee, is making a recommendation to the board. The board has plenary power, can do whatever it wants in that regard, can reopen the process, can do anything, or could approve the candidates.
Exactly.
And that was my question. If we wanted to do something differently, it wouldn't be our choice to reopen the process nor to adjust the recommended salary range. That would be the pleasure of the full board on February
You could
1st.
recommend that, but it would be up to the board to make the decision.
I agree with the summary that the chair just laid out, so I'm supportive of where we are.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Anything else we need to bring up today? All hearts and minds satisfied. Sound like my pastor in church. Seeing none, we adjourn.